The evidence presented shows the FBI was warning about a possible Russian disinformation campaign, which Schellenberger suggests was overstated, and an effort to prime Roth to distrust the Hunter Biden laptop story. But I've been stunned that there's still nothing to show that the FBI told them that the laptop story was even likely disinformation. What the Twitter files did show is that the FBI wanted more information from Twitter, not vice versa. Schellenberger reported time and again FBI asks Twitter for evidence of foreign influence, and Twitter responds they aren't finding anything worth reporting. Twitter executives even pushed back, quote, "We haven't yet identified activity that we'd typically refer to you or even flag as interesting in the foreign influence context." So wait a second. I thought this was a political conspiracy. They were in this together. And then the FBI shares some confidential information to show that the threat of Russian interference is real, but that isn't out of the ordinary. The FBI does this stuff all the time to try to get more information. Look, I think they should do it, but even if you think they shouldn't, that doesn't show it's politicized. Again, what the Twitter files have shown is that the left may have had more access to Twitter execs than the right. Fair enough. And Twitter colossally screwed up the Hunter Biden laptop story. But criticizing the FBI is different from suggesting they were politicized and rooting for one team. The FBI has never, ever had a director as a Democrat throughout history. They've all been Republicans. So this bizarre and, in my view, anti-law enforcement effort to undermine the FBI appears to be falling flat. Joining me now is conservative media analyst and the co-host of the Death of Journalism podcast, John Ziegler. All right. John, what did you make of this latest dump in number 6's and number 7? I know you've read through it. You've also seen Schellenberger been interviewed as well.
Yeah, what I see here, Dan, is a classic case of, was this a conspiracy of mutual bias or was there corruption involved? And I would like to believe in the former theory than the latter, because I would like always to presume that people are acting in good faith, especially when they're working for the FBI, until I have evidence to the contrary. I don't have evidence of that yet. What I think has happened here is a classic case. This is a very human reaction where a bunch of people got burned in 2016 in the presidential election because of Russian interference. They got a result a lot of people, especially at Twitter, did not like, and they did everything they possibly could to make sure the same thing didn't happen again in 2020. The one part of this equation, though, Dan, that I think is important to point out that might go a little bit against your theory is when the FBI knew that or should have known at least, that the Hunter Biden laptop was not a situation of Russian disinformation. And I think the evidence there raises some very significant questions. And the guy that I would consider to be potentially the villain in this is not Yoel Roth, who I actually think did a pretty decent job under the circumstances, but James Baker, the former general counsel of the FBI, who became the general counsel of Twitter and then was fired. If there is potential corruption here, that's where I would point it.
Yeah, and I've pointed out in the past that Baker, of course, was John Durham's star witness in the Michael Sussman case. So, you know, Baker was almost a right-wing hero, failed in that effort when Sussman's acquitted, and now, of course, becomes the villain in this story again. But again, what do we know about what exactly the FBI knew about with regard to the Hunter Biden laptop? And we know when they got it, right? But right. I don't think we know anything beyond that about what they did with it.
Well, logic would dictate.
Well, that's different.
It was very easy.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Logic would dictate that they knew a lot, because it wasn't that difficult to discern that it was in fact his laptop, and that the theory that they put forward to Twitter is kind of crackpot. That this was all a hack and a.
But they didn't. But wait. But John, they never said to Twitter. There's no evidence that they said to Twitter the Hunter Biden laptop is Russian disinformation. There's no evidence.
And that's where the priming. That's where the priming or the grooming, comes in.
Correct.
And that's where the power of the words, I think it's really important here. We understand the power of the words FBI, especially when, and this is something as a journalist you'll appreciate, what bothers me maybe most about this entire story is there's no real journalist in the room to say, hey, wait a minute, what about the journalistic aspects of whether or not we're going to censor a story? These are not people who are trained in this, and they got groomed by the FBI, whether it was out of incompetence, bias, fear of repeating 2016, or something worse than that. I don't know, but I think that's an important question.
John Ziegler, as always, thank you. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.